You guys, I just found the most incredible Mother's Day gift. It's called Goldbelly. Goldbelly is this amazing site where you can get the most iconic foods from restaurants all across the U.S., shipped anywhere in the country for free in time for Mother's Day. We're talking cakes from Ina Garden and Martha Stewart, Magnolia Bakery's famous banana pudding, and New York bagel brunches. Make Mother's Day perfect with Goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code MOM. That's Goldbelly.com, promo code MOM.
At Rocket, we believe everyone deserves their shot at the American dream. So if you're feeling locked out of home ownership, we're here to give you back the keys. We're opening doors, breaking down walls, and doing everything we can to turn renters into owners. And we're not going to stop until we help everyone home. To find out more, visit Rocket.com. Rocket, own the dream.
At Sephora, we've got what you want because you're obsessed with your skin and we're obsessed with what it needs. Sephora has the best products to help you get beautiful, glowing, radiant skin. With an extensive, inclusive range of results-driven formulas and in-store beauty advisors to help you find exactly which are right for you, the best skincare is only at Sephora. Sephora, for all your skincare.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby. The top 14, Pro de Nationale, they blur the Champions Cup, the Challenge Cups, and of course the brilliant towns, cities, bars, restaurants, cuisine, wine, fans, stadium, everything that makes the French rugby experience so magnificent. Last week, Rob was in the midst of his French rugby pilgrimage to the Bern, and he's now back. Rob, you've been away for 10 days or so, I think it was. Pretty steady trip. Yeah. How are you feeling? How are you reflecting on your latest venture?
Sad to be back, I have to say. Yeah, it was a fantastic time. I would quite happily do that for the rest of my life, if I'm honest. Those sorts of things. Just, mooching around the south of France, watching rugby, bit of cycling, bit of running, lots of eating. Yeah.
Very nice.
It absolutely flew by. Absolutely flew by. I can't believe it's kind of all over now. But yeah, I've realised that we kind of, I think at the beginning of it must have been the new year, we kind of had New Year's resolutions, and I think I've achieved all of them so far, or New Year's hopes. You know, it was go back to Saxby, go and watch a Nationale game, go back to Hamo and see Po, but tie it in with some kind of Pyrenean activities and a bit of Derby weekend. So I think I've completed it, mate.
Too easy, far too easy. Need to set loftier ambitions.
Pro Day final.
Yeah, would be good. Before we get into the rugby-based stuff, did you meet any further Tour de France stage winners? And how was the rest of the cycling? Because you sounded slightly anxious about the next day's activities when we last caught up. Make it through unscathed?
Unfortunately, Christophe Agnolotto was the only Tour de France stage winner that we met. No more. But we did do Col de Soleure the next day, which is very near Col d'Aubisque, and which is like one of the really famous ones. And on Col de Soleure, they have like there's a marker kind of just near the start of the ascent, which has the kind of Tour de France logo and like the stats of the climb. And I did it, mate. I didn't stop. That was the kind of main thing. I was like, I'm going to get to the top and say that I didn't stop at any point. 49 minutes of climbing. My watch said total descent in that 49 minutes was 0 feet. So, I think peak altitude was something like 1,500 or something like that. It was cool. I'm not excited. So that was like the third time I've ever clipped in pedals before anyone thinks I'm a complete freak. But yeah, it was really the views were amazing. And cycling out of Lourdes early in the morning, sunshine with Pyrenees absolutely everywhere, still pretty cold, so there's still plenty of snow around, was just stunning, absolutely stunning, especially as we got quite a nice morning. I did notice that long-time listener Trefton has his profile picture on is Col du Laterat. So and his
Okay.
his altitude is 2,058. So not only is he better at getting tickets to French rugby, he's outdoing us on athletic on cycling feats. So, but
Oh,
yeah, no,
you,
it was very cool. It was very cool, and put a couple of didn't actually have my stickers with me, but I kind of repurposed some that I had on my general person. So we've marked our territory, mate.
excellent. Yeah, I mean, it's a very appreciate you winding me into that us. I don't think I'd be last in that. My most recent cycling experience was buying a new road bike, riding it to my dad's shed to store it, and there it has laid ever since. But maybe this is cause to get out. I did see some of
Have
the
you?
photos.
You didn't watch
Pretty spectacular.
didn't watch London Marathon? You weren't hashtag inspired again.
I did. I went and I've applied for the ballot again. I've been hashtag inspired twice in 2 years. It was absolutely fantastic.
It's time for you to still time for you to write your own fitness story,
Write my
Rich's
own
fitness
story.
journey.
Hashtag join the journey. As Exeter
Um,
Chiefs have been plugging out this year, but that's not a journey
which
any of us want to be on, unfortunately.
well, it turns out quite a few of the coaches are now not on there for a while either.
Coaches, a few players thinking, ooh.
How was your weekend? You played cricket,
Yeah,
which implies that you must have had some better weather than I had.
Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. Very, very unlike a pre-season game in that it was very warm. And we also played on what would, for the cricket nerds here, could be described as like a 5-day Mumbai Bunsen.
Oh wow!
We were usually obviously early season. It's wet, it's stodgy, it's the conditions are not amazing. But yeah, we played on a raging Turner that had been used as the net wicket, which was fine and it was quite good fun. But it was felt like a slightly unusual experience. Yeah, felt the knees into my 24th season of wicket keeping did not feel amazing on Sunday morning, it must be said. But we got through. And then yeah, London Marathon on Sunday, a little bit of decorating Sunday afternoon. So yeah, all quite semi-productive, I would say.
Very nice.
Let's get to the real stuff then. Bayonne Po, the Anoeta. Before we get into the rugby itself, so I saw a picture that I believe is you. It took me a little bit of time to realise what was going on. Draped in what I think is a Bern flag, like you've been sort of welcomed home as some sort of local hero. Maybe did you earn that from doing that Tour de France stage? Is that what happens? You get like a complimentary flag on the way down.
Yeah, although that's not technically that col is technically in Hautes-Pyrénées, not Pyrénées-Atlantiques. It's actually in the next door department. No, I bought that with a postcard. It wasn't buy one get one free.
Oh, I was going to say it's quite a good deal.
That would be quite a good deal. No, I mean the Bayonne flag. I really love it. It's just a good flag,
It is quite cool.
and I thought that would be quite good for the Bayerns versus the Basques. Be quite good to have flags like that. I didn't should have taken some of the section palois ones that I picked up from the Hamo the week before. But yeah, I did drape myself in the flag for the day. It was great.
So talk me through.
That photo I do look quite forlorn, don't now that like some child that's been brought up in the Bayern and knows nothing else but section palois and the Bayern region.
But take me through the kind of day itself, the match day experience, I guess, for want of a better phrase.
Well, I think the weather is the one place to start. My God. Well, we got, I reckon, Friday was nice. So we were in Biarritz and then went up to Mont-de-Marsan for that. There was a bit of Thursday evening that was nice. As I mentioned, the kind of first bit of our cycle ride was nice on the Wednesday. Pretty much it. And then San Sebastian just delivered on the rain. Yeah, it was great. It was absolutely great. Like the match day experience, okay. So we probably didn't have quite the trains and the buses took a little bit longer. So just trying to get onto a train at Hendaye, which is just inside France.
Yeah.
So you actually took the bus route. We crossed into Spain and then crossed back into France to get to the train station. But that just took a little bit longer. So we didn't quite have as much time in San Sebastian as I perhaps would have liked, especially after my chats with fellow French rugby aficionados, I guess, in Joe Worsley and the team at FI UK. But yeah, so we wanted to do like grazing, the bar to bar, etc. I actually thought, I'll go to the place that we went to when we went there for the tamburrada and had the amazing mushrooms, massive queue outside there. And it's like, this is going to have to be a case of Gambara, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, that
Gandaras,
was
maybe I can't remember.
outstanding.
But it was just a case of we're just going to have to get in somewhere. And it was just kind of trying to remember which ones I liked and which ones I'd been to before and which ones I knew were good. And we went into Le Cacciara de San Telmo, which is normally absolutely rammed. And it said on Google, less busy than usual. I was like, right, this is probably a lie, but it's getting there. And we just had to squeeze in, standing up, not much room. And we basically had the richest, biggest feed possible so that we didn't need to do anything else for the rest of the day. Basically, I think we were in and out, had our 5 dishes and a bottle of wine in about half an hour. It's such a hectic atmosphere that we were kind of caught up in the hecticness. And I can tell you now, Richard, that once you've genuinely wolfed down foie gras, pig's ears, beef cheek, octopus, and morsilla blood sausage, you're not in a state to move anywhere particularly quickly.
You surprised me.
Mate, I was defeated. It was the others that were flying through it. Had to really force down the pig's ears, I have to say. Yeah, so we and it was pissing it down. So like we were kind of wanted to walk up, make our way to the ground, stop in a few bars, but it was kind of like, right, we're getting wet here. We're gonna have to stop in this one, sort of thing. I should say the kind of tamburada stuff was there. In the middle of town, we walked past the square for the first time. There was a lot of drumming, and it was the same outfits, the chefs and the old school kind of military stuff.
Do we know if is that a regular thing? Was that because there's a sort
every
of
Saturday, I assume?
Is it? Okay.
No, I assume
like an out of town event with the rugby.
I assume it was because there was a big kind of Basque country thing.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people about. And they were clearly all there for the rugby. And yeah, so I mean, we got to the ground about an hour and a half before. Some of the bars outside the ground on the way, like within kind of 5-minute walk, the Sociedad bars looked lively, like tiny, round, like all the shirts on the wall and just blokes in blue and white everywhere. And they looked really cool, but we were just like, let's just get to the ground. And actually there was a bar bang opposite, which was absolutely rammed, but was pretty decent value. Thierry de Sautoir was there. Don't know why.
Very cool.
Which actually Ben spotted him, to be fair. It wasn't me. That normally it's me being like, oh, that is so and so.
Do you remember at the World Cup at the Velodrome when we saw, those little like golf buggies they used to move people around on? And we saw Thierry de Sautoir on one and then followed by Serge Betsen. It's like, that's pretty flair.
Remember that.
Do you not remember that?
I
think that might have been when me and another were in that infamous lager queue.
Yeah.
But sorry, I interject.
Yeah. Well, yeah, slightly less niche than the other rugby players I'd spotted. Whereas like on Wednesday after our bike ride, I was like, "That's Daniel Bibi Baziru," and they were like, "What?" It's like, got up a photo. So, oh yeah, at least they're prop for pay. Anyway, and it was great. It was just good fun. Like the atmosphere. There were so many people there, and have to shout out to Keller Lager, which is the local lager in Donostia, San Sebastian, is a beautiful drop. And they were flying down. It was €6 for a pint inside the ground of those, which is pretty outrageous.
Reasonable in this day and age.
Albeit that did then become kind of a can decanted into a cup, which was then not topped up to a pint, but even so, pretty reasonable. It was kind of like at the World Cup, where they're perhaps not expecting quite as many lager drinkers. But the actual in stadium, I thought it was it's really up there for ones that match day experiences that I've been to. Certainly in terms of the atmosphere in stadium is unique. It was kind of like the Lord's hum, but louder. So like a lot of cricket on this podcast. The Lord's hum is like whereas you kind of just constant buzz of throughout the day, and it kind of never gets quiet, and it's kind of this background noise. It was like that, but with drums. It was just loud throughout, and it's such a loud stadium. Like when the because it wasn't full, and you could barely hear yourself throughout most of the game, and amazing views, and could do with a little paint on the outside, but it's really, really cool. And we had decent view. We were covered, thankfully, but pre-game it was all the songs, Donna Emily and La Goffa Lolita, and yeah, I just absolutely loved it. There was a decent amount of Poe fans as well, which kind of made it certainly helped the atmosphere a bit, and they were going pretty rowdy as well down their end, which was relatively near us, but yeah,
delightful. And my final question before discuss some of the rugby that took place is, was it borne out our suspicions regarding the in-stadium cuisine, or were you treated to some other fare?
Well, I don't really know how to answer this because I don't think I saw any real food offerings in the ground other than like crisps. But the post match afterwards, which was kind of in the out the back of the ground, there were a load of carts of stuff that looked like burgers and stuff. It looked all right. I didn't have any. The only stuff I had was, and I feel like we definitely had it at another ground. I can't remember where, but it's just the chips and like the melty cheese with a load of bacon, like crispy bacon on top, and I had quite a lot of that. And it's dirty, but it's really really tasty.
Good
So
dirty.
It's good dirty, yeah. It's not like
Not Bordeaux hot dog, bad
not
dirty.
no. There were probably more stuff, but I just wasn't like we were so full and like we'd had such a rich lunch that it was kind of like food wasn't hugely high on the agenda until it was like I need some food, otherwise we're getting absolutely hammered here. I would say the bit afterwards, the après, because it was pissing it down, had real vibes of like when you're at a festival, and like it took me back to kind of Reading Festival 2009 or 2010, absolutely hosing it down, and everyone's just like, right, well, we're all wet here, we're all getting muddy, we're all getting wet, let's just pile in. And the tent was absolutely, it was probably as busy as a Reading Festival tent. It was heaving and was a proper kind of carnival atmosphere of everyone just getting on it, really. Yeah.
Incredible. Very, very good. There was a game as well going on somewhere in the midst of all that. Bayonne ran out winners, although not sort of runaway. Was this, at least in the ground, were the sort of suspicions that you may have had going in a little bit too powerful, a little bit too heavy, borne out, or is it a bit more complex than that?
No, 100%. They were just too powerful. They like Poe's line out perhaps didn't click as well as you might, but we know that Bayonne's line out defense is excellent, and they just couldn't get a foothold in the game. They did have a few issues at scrum, and then someone got hooked. Kalashvili came on for Paru, got hooked at the end of the first half. Kalashvili, the much maligned Kalashvili, then like on his own 5 meter line, just turned over to Vita, which was much needed. Yeah, it was. They were just too powerful. You know, you just look at the try scorers for Bayonne, and well, we'll come on to him, but outside of his first try for Bayonne for Tuolangi, but Ituria, Bruni with the other try scorers, and it was those guys, like the big back five of that scrum were kind of everywhere, and Poe just weren't. Well, they were penalised a lot at the breakdown. Obviously, in the heat at the moment, I'm absolutely raging at that, but they were probably all right. Like the calls, they were all fairly marginal, and Bayonne were definitely the dominant team. But yeah, it was Tavita Tatafu was brilliant. There was so much ball carrying from him. He was really good at scrum time as well. Just the contact area, Bayonne were just so much superior. I don't know who the official man of the match was, but the player that was absolutely everywhere and was outstanding was Manu Tuolangi. He scored his first try for Bayonne. Just
which,
everywhere.
if you haven't seen, is kind of, if you had to imagine a Manu Tuolangi try, it's basically that.
I think it's almost like more than that, isn't it? Like it's basically powers through everyone from the 22. The only man capable of stopping him, it seems, would be one of my favourite players, Fabien Bralbery, which is when you've got a 19-year-old who is seemingly the only person that can stop Manu Tuolangi. That's A, says a lot about that 19-year-old, but B, tells you all you need to know about the impact of Manu Tuolangi. You know, even guys like Gorgadze are like, yeah, the odd good break, but couldn't really get a foothold in the game compared to Kasim and Aturia and Bruni and Lucas Paulos when he came on. Mangala was great, like really good as well. Kind of, I think that's his first start in a while. But Poe, to be fair, outside of Fabien Bralbery, so he just couldn't get into the game. So like it was just kind of like, this is good. This could yet be done by a moment of quality from Teo Atazogbe. And he had some brilliant moments under the high ball, but he also, there was one where he just like dropped one. There was one he booted one off the back. He wasn't perfect, but they just couldn't get him in the game. Like you just think, come on, Teo, just get the man some space and to do something. And yeah, just couldn't get him into the game at all. But the story at the end was about Axel Desprez. Are you quite aware of what happened at the end of the game?
Go on, tell me.
So obviously last week, Axel Desprez, flawless off the tee, missed a late drop goal. and then Bordeaux get on the other end and secure the win. This week, again, Axel Desperez, flawless off the tee until there's a penalty awarded on 77 minutes, 78 minutes. And at this point, Po are 8 points down. So they've gone for the penalty, and if he gets on with it quickly, they've got enough time. They've got about 10 seconds for the restart, and then they can maybe go down the other end, score the try, and snatch an undeserved win or draw. Desperez misses the kick. He's like rushing through. He's taken about 20 seconds, and it's like the wrong side for a right-footed kicker. It's not quite touchline, but it's probably 5-10 meters infield, about 35 meters out. Misses it, and it's not missed by far. Anyway, he gets another chance at the end of the game, which I think is about 5 meters in on the 10-meter line. So on the same side, like really, really tough kick. Fair play to, like, clock's gone red. They need this bonus. They need this kick for the bonus point, and he nails it. Like the drama and the relief, and he's given us some great storylines over the last few weeks. Like, especially kind of seeing both games in the flesh with him, kind of the roller coaster ride of Axel Desperez. He's really turned me around in terms of my skepticism of him. I think he's a really good young player. We saw him in the bar afterwards. He's tiny, but the minerals to nail probably his hardest kick of the match after missing a slightly easier one literally 30 seconds before. Yeah, fair play to him. That was quite a nice finish, and probably snatched a relatively undeserved.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Po were in the game. Po were in the game for a lot of it, but they were never going to. The longer it went on, the more it became apparent that they weren't going to win. And it's quite a key bonus point that now. Don't know where we're going next in terms of the games.
Gonna say, because it's now so Po. I mean, Po feel like it's going to take. They're not totally out of the woods, but they're in a much better position, and that extra point could be incredibly valuable because beneath them, Perpignan 36 points, lost away to Montpellier, and we said Van. It was kind of getting a little bit now or never, and fair play. They've, I think, pulled off their first. I think it's their first attacking bonus point of the year to do it at home to what was. I mean, there was an eye-catching selection with Dome on at 10, but what was otherwise very strong-looking Toulon side. And Van did the business. Bonus point wins, put them on 35 points and a point behind Perpignan and Stade Francais, who we'll come on to in a moment. Van, I don't know if you saw much of this, managed to catch some of the...
I've seen this game, yeah.
Some largest chunks, but they looked pretty impressive for the most part.
They were the better team by quite some way, I'd say. It's hard though, isn't it? Like, you don't know. I don't know whether the kind of Toulon looked a little bit sloppy, and it's hard, you never know whether it's just because that's such a long way for Derby weekend, whether it was kind of they weren't that up for it, or whether it was all just Van just being in their face and being well up for it. Yeah, but Toulon weren't great. They weren't certainly anywhere near their best, but Van looked completely fit, like dominant physically, and yeah, I thought they were pretty good value for that win, as 4 tries to 1 would seem to suggest.
Yeah.
But yeah. So just on Po, they are 8 clear of Stade and Perpignan and 9 clear of Van. There is very real danger that Po don't pick up any more points, I think. And one of their games is against Van. So yeah, so when you say not out the woods, I definitely agree with that. Although they feel like a slightly more coherent side than some of the others. And they've got players still to come back. Guyton was training in the warm-up.
So that's good. That's very good.
Key. And we might even see Joe Simmons MBE by the end of the season as well.
Well, that would be doubly good. One call out, other than some brilliant performances in a weekend as an extra fan, that was about as miserable as it can get. Stephen Farney being Midi Olympique's player of the round was
brilliant.
Was something to cling on to for next year. He was exceptional. A couple of real poachers back of the ruck tries as well, which was great. Gorison, who I think it was only a couple of weeks ago, right? He has extended his contract, was everything you'd expect from your sort of heavy back row captain. And then the only other bit I wanted to call out from this, which I don't know if amusing is the right word, but have you seen the try from the hooker? Is it Beziers? Where he kind of dispossesses Issa, who, from what I can tell, runs into heavy traffic, and I think it's Mako whacks him, and it kind of causes him to, I think he knocks heads with whoever's his like supporting kind of latcher. And I think in that moment, he sort of half because he's knocked his head, half because he's like instinctively appealing for a penalty, basically just lets go of the ball and Beziers kind of yoinks it, picks his pocket, and runs it under the post.
That was chalked off.
What? You're
That was
joking?
chalked off. Yeah, because that was a yellow card for Mako Vinopola for the head
Oh,
clash.
well, that's ruined my story because I watched that in the official highlights and there was no yellow card. It was just given and the scorecard changed.
No, it was chalked off. Mako
fair enough. So it
Vinopola
was
got his
actually
first yellow card of the season.
so it was actually a genuine head knock rather than
yeah.
well, boring.
There was a ludicrous yellow card for Marius Doman on this, like one of those ones where you jump in the air to block a kick and someone runs into you and it's a penalty, but like quite why it was a yellow card, I've got no idea. Talking of head knocks, there was a fairly horror, and obviously because it's French TV, you get a nice close up of his eyes, like gone, like
Jesus,
passed out for Melvin Jaminet, which he collided with somebody's knee, somebody massive's knee, like someone like Issa or Abadi or someone like that. Might have been Big Brian. It's not a knee you want to collide with, is it?
Pick a knee to run into, maybe not.
I genuinely think I genuinely think that's the best game I've seen Stephen Varney in any team for about 5 years. And,
yeah, really good.
And they are a different side with Saili in it. He looked great. There was a couple of from Van, the proper old school under 14 Bs tap and go moves from 5 meters out. It didn't come to anything, unfortunately, but nice to see like the old school
wall.
The wall, yeah. The wall with the dummy runners. Yeah. It was that bonus point as well is like makes a huge difference. And and also it's quite bad for Toulon not to get a losing bonus point. They weren't kind of ever really in it, but yeah, they should have. You'd like to think they would at least get a losing bonus point, and then that could have helped them make up ground on Bordeaux, who also lost.
Who lost at home, which I don't think anyone was really expecting. Obviously, La Rochelle did break their hoodoo, but was not in any way, shape, or form anticipating what looked like a fairly comfortable victory away from home.
In the preview, I would have been 100% had I got this one right. And this, I reckon, if I put money on one result this round, it probably would have been on Bordeaux winning. And in the previews, I did, like I just said, there's only one winner here, Bordeaux. Cheers, basically. And yeah.
I only saw potted highlights, but I know one of the guys you were speaking to, I think on your trip, they wrapped this one into
reserve.
And I mean, it sounded like from that and from the little bits I saw, it was the kind of all of Bordeaux's Achilles heels coming to the fore at the same time. The unreliability of the set piece, particularly the line out. Yeah, it doesn't bode hugely well, I'd say, following Toulouse's 56, whatever it was, demolition of Cast for Sunday and the Champions Cup semi-final. But you don't know, they do blow hot and cold, and when they're hot, it's really sweaty. So yeah, don't know what more to say on that, but they've got to sort out their set piece at some point, haven't they?
Well, Tom from the Travelling Reserve, who I was talking to and we bumped into, and Biarritz was saying just the pack generally, not just line out in the scrum, which struggled, but just generally around the park, they were kind of outmuscled by. I mean, La Rochelle are huge, like they are a big physical team, especially when they get it right. So perhaps no bad. They won't be the first team, won't be the last team to get outmuscled by them.
Agreed.
At home, Saturday night, derby game, Chaban Delmas, you just don't expect it.
Saturday night, the late
night's
kickoff
done it,
is not doing good things.
It's teams with dreadful away records.
Yeah,
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, quite extraordinary. What else have we got to cover? Well, the big one. Well, I say the big one in the lead up, certainly Racing Stade Francais, in which the bits I managed to catch a little bit of this, but fairly tight first half. Stade Francais go in at half time, a few points up. And deservedly so, I would say, and proceed to get absolutely blown away in the second half by Racing. Again, Le Garrick, absolutely at the centre of everything that good that came there. Tuisova doing, we said about Manu Tuilangi scoring a kind of, my first Manu Tuilangi try. Josh Tuisova was taking names and leaving bodies strewn across the La Défense. I was going to say turf, what would you call it? Matting.
Yeah. Did you see
carpet?
Did you see the hit? It wasn't Tuisova, although Tuisova was excellent. Did you see the hit from Roman Salfafanua on Leo Barre?
Yes, I did.
And Leo Barre is in like agony after, like he's on the bench and you just see him wincing like he's got ice on his shoulder and he's still wincing like every time the camera cuts to him. It was a phenomenal hit, and it's look quite. I don't know whether he's injured or not, whether he's just in a lot of pain, but Racing turned up physically. Like
they were very good, and Whisper It. Owen Farrell was very good as well in this game, and looked like he was moving like a sort of normal human rugby player rather than a bloke who spent most of the year crocked.
His goal kicking, I think, was the real indicator for me.
But
Mertz was very critical about how deep he is, which I feel like is quite an Andrew Mertens, just like when you're one of the great attacking fly halves of all time. Probably you can just dish out that. It's a bit different when Stuart Barnes is doing it, isn't it?
We'll continue with the cricket stuff, like when Shane Warne used to say he's not trying to spin it hard enough.
Yeah. And I think he was genuinely quite deep. He's not getting flat and running onto it quite as much as he can do. Mm-hmm. But I think the fact that he's nailing them from 40 plus meters is a pretty good sign. There was obviously some very good tactical kicking in there. Again, helps that his pack were completely dominant and Tuisova was outside him to give him some go forward as well. But some promising signs for Farrell. There was on this game, so we mentioned it last week, and Angus Torode said on commentary that discipline has been an issue for these two sides, keeping 15 men on the pitch. And we nearly made it the full way without a card. Thankfully, the man of the moment when it comes to indiscipline, Cameron Waukee, 78th minute, yellow card. Just making sure that we had a card in this game. And when I could see the ref pulling the card out of his pocket and I heard him say 20 white, I was like yes, come on.
Yeah, amazing.
I was like, I genuinely laughed when I saw that it was Cameron walking towards him. They were good. I'm slightly skeptical about Legaric. I don't think he's been. I think he's going through a little bit of, like when players burst onto the scene and they're amazing. I think he is going through that little bit of.
Maybe
he has been. But
he
so
was
good
brilliant in this. I think he was excellent. He's a proper difference maker as well. Like he drags. Yeah, he does make mistakes.
Yeah.
But he does also kind of conjure things, doesn't he? And
like the anger in his celebration, I think hints that he's perhaps not had the smoothest of last couple of. He was brilliant up until about January. I think since the Six Nations stuff, he's been a little bit hot and cold. Largely hot, but I think there's a little bit of frustration creeping into his game. The other player I want to shout out who has actually been very good for Racing all season, and probably, despite some of his own indiscipline at times, probably their best player actually outside of Legaric this season, Ibrahim Diallo, who I think has been so good.
It's class.
And scored a really cool try.
Brilliant finish.
Yeah.
Just looks like a good egg, doesn't he? Like always with a bit of a grin on his face. Yeah, he's a proper,
works bloody hard.
Player.
And some cool celebrations at the end, like people taking flags, Demba Bamba wielding a big flag, Tuisova stealing a big flag from the fans. It actually looked like pretty lively.
Big men, big flags.
I think Stade are fucked, by the way. Like
they're just, it's remarkable, isn't it? It
to be
really
that
is.
overpowered. I mean, I know Racing are in good form at the moment, but that was completely one side.
Racing now go into this weekend. There's a bit of additional French European action. We mentioned Toulouse, Bordeaux a moment ago, but they take on Lyon, who lost what was a pretty entertaining affair over at Clermont. Late win for Clermont. Erde Pagetta getting over the line, which is always fun.
Nice.
Looking young and youthful and full of vitality as ever, old Benjamin. But yeah, it could be a really interesting semi-final. That it's in Lyon, isn't it? I think hosting it. Lyon, which was announced as, I believe, not next year, the year after, the host of the Challenge and Champions Cup finals for what's the year after? 2027 in the week as well. So that's pretty fun, isn't it?
Yeah, that is fun.
Oh dear, we'll have to consider going to Lyon.
Although the whatever they call it, Groupama or whatever, the Stade OL is a long way out of town. So
it is a bit of a schlep, but when England played there in the Six Nations, it looked absolutely ridiculous inside at night.
Yeah.
So have to go and sample it. But it could be a really interesting one. Anything else on the top 14? No top 14 this weekend because of the aforementioned European stuff. So should we
They've all
leave it
got
there?
a week off, which I think is, well, 10 of them have got a week off. It'll be interesting to see how they come out of that. Certainly teams like Stade, who seem to be going from worse to worse. Just on the... do we want to talk about the European stuff?
Go for it. Go on. Have you got any major thoughts?
More just like...
we've done Bordeaux and Toulouse blue in the face a little bit.
Yeah, we have. But it's more on the wider stuff. I'm probably repeating stuff that I've said before, but I bumped into some Leinster fans at half time in the Anoeta. Now, there were people on rugby tours absolutely. We'll come on to it when we do Pro Day Deux stuff. People on rugby tours absolutely everywhere this weekend. But they were from County Wicklow, and I can't remember where they were from. And they were saying, "Oh, I think Bordeaux are soft." And I was like, "Well, they're not soft in terms of they meant like fallible and like not mentally strong." I think my thing for this is that I will be fully backing Toulouse this weekend because I just think a Leinster v Bordeaux final is a 30-point margin, if not more. I think it could be an absolute beatdown, and I don't want that. I want an epic like last year, just because I think Toulouse are the only team that can. Well, Bordeaux can test that Leinster defence, obviously, but I think Toulouse have just got that little bit more with the likes of Miafu and Cross and Willis to kind of trouble Leinster and get a foothold into the game, even without like Tony D. I think they've just got too much quality, whereas Bordeaux, I just think Leinster's line out and breakdown and scrum will just have, and forwards will just have way too much for them, and it will completely overpower them. I think it's ironically though, I think in terms of the game, it could easily be Bordeaux that run out winners, which is because it's at Matmut, isn't it? Matmut Atlantique.
It is, yeah, it is. I know what you mean. I don't know if
but they've beaten them the last 2 years in a row.
I certainly get where you're coming from. I mean, I would love to see Bordeaux make a European final. I'm probably with you. I think Leinster would run out winners of that, but you don't know.
Imagine a Bordeaux v Northampton final. That'd be epic.
Yeah,
like
that
50 points, 50-48.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. Yeah, we're writing off Northampton, who nearly did the business, but they'd come so good, hadn't they, at that point with Ludlam and Laws and a few others, in addition to the guys out wide. But we'll see. It should be a Sunday, isn't it, as well, which is in the middle of the bank holiday weekend.
I don't know where I am.
I was going to say, ideal. So, and then, Lyon Racing could be fun. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think is a fair summary there. All right, let's...
in good form.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Right, we'll come back for some Pro Day Death.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, May 1st, only on Netflix.
Now then, as ever, there's always time, the little nook, Nationale Nibbles, the Nationale Nook, whatever you want to call it. And it was settled this weekend in round 26. We know who are going to be, we knew who were going to be in the home semi-final spots, give or take, Narbonne and the coming force of Chambéry. Although Chambéry did lose, I saw, which... I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but potentially resting a few players with an eye to giving them 2 weeks off. But in slightly more exciting stuff, so we've seen that Carcassonne will be hosting Albi in something of a little bit of a derby, just straddling kind of north and southeast of Toulouse there. So that's locked in, and our boys Périgueux took on Rouen at the Stade Francais Rongeria, which is the ground that was seemingly under construction or refurbishment when we went, next door to the Stade Roger Dantou. First game there in years, as far as I can tell. And that narrow win sets up exactly the same fixture this weekend, which proves that clearly the seeding is not done on points difference, because Rouen, as we highlighted last week, is it games won, attacking bonus?
It's not games. They've won the same amount of games. Rouen also have 2 draws, so you'd assume. I think it's probably done as quite a lot of the French stuff is. It's probably done on head to head.
Okay,
I don't know what the reverse fixture result was, but maybe Périgueux did win that. Yeah, because it's interesting. One of the Roger Dantou and the Rongeray or whatever. There was something. Périgueux put something up a few weeks ago, being like last game at the Roger Dantou, and I was like, hang on, they've got another home game, which is obviously it actually was just a last one at that ground. So yeah,
gives us a good excuse for another trip back to Périgueux.
Hopefully,
I also thought that ground looked quite a long way from completion when we were there at the end of January.
Yeah.
So they've obviously swept it up, but it's a big Stadium. I think it holds like 10,000 people. So grand ambitions in Périgueux. Bit of Rosbif connection.
The other one's not small either.
No, but a little, I guess, slightly less infrastructure for want of a better word. We have to as well
Rouen,
call out
the reverse fixture was Rouen when Rouen played at home was 19-9 to Périgueux. So they've done the double
head to head. Very good.
So it'll be on head to head.
So yeah, that's pretty exciting. So I think it's the winners of so Carcassonne Albi will travel to Narbonne, so potential of another Eau de Firm, and the winners of Périgueux Rouen will go to Chambéry. The final of this is actually at, if the fixture list that I saw is to be believed, is at the Parc des Sports de l'Amitié, which is Narbonne's home ground as well, which maybe gives them a cheeky little bonus nudge there. So yeah, really exciting couple of weeks ahead of obviously that Nationale final and then the Pro D2 access match. We've got to shout out Marcon Baruel, who when we saw humbled in the rain at Périgueux, we thought it's looking like a long rest of the season for these boys, but fairest of plays. They finished 10th. They've come above Tarbes, who I think are a Brennus winner. Finished above Bourgoin and Suresnes, 2 very storied clubs in the history of French rugby. And a particular shout out to their French-Portuguese winger, who we've spoken about, I think, maybe once or twice before, David Antunes, who finishes the year as the 3rd most successful kicker with 173 points off the tee, but also finishes the year as the league's leading point scorer when you add an additional 17 tries into that haul, which
pretty
is
good, Ian.
Pretty
good in 26 games.
In a team that has struggled as well. So yeah, brilliant work from the guys up in Lille. Thoroughly well deserved. Brilliant turnaround. Because I think they were, when we saw them as well, they were a little bit adrift. It's fantastic that they've brought that back round. And Stade Francais will be in the access match.
Yes, I just saw Marcon Baruel. I saw our man. Sorry, at 17 tries in 21 games. He's not even played every game. I saw Victor Fee Ballas Blurel, who did start on Saturday. I saw on his story at I think it must have been Sunday morning, and it must have been like 10 a.m. Just a bottle of whiskey and a bottle of Coca-Cola, and it was like, and I can't remember what the caption was, but it was something like "hell of a survival" or something like that. Hell of a survival, and yeah, it was like fair play.
What a guy. He's rocking up in. I feel like we've found some cult props over the years. We were early on the Luke Taggy hype when he was at Provence. Maybe next year we're going to see Victor Fye up in, I don't know, playing for Montauban or someone like that. He's certainly got that aura to him. Okay. Pro D2 is genuinely reaching its denouement. There's nothing this weekend, right, to coincide with the European stuff. So little room to breathe before the last 2 rounds. Grenoble have secured a home semi-final berth with a unerringly narrow win over Oyonnax, who decided now's the time to start turning in some performances away from home. Nice continued their excellent little mini run of form, beating Provence, who very much heading in the other direction, albeit I think you would think they're still good for the barrage, but a few worrying signs there. And looking like they'd been not cut adrift, but looking like a little bit of an uphill battle a few weeks ago. Brilliant win for Soyo Angoulême over Argennes, who are still looking over their shoulder to put them in great shapes for the barrage. And then unfortunately the lack. Our boys did lose at home to Brive, which was probably to be expected. So they are looking odds on, you would expect, for the access match, but you don't know.
Saxby very much in the driving seat for one of those barrage places because the next round sees Montauban play Beziers.
Yeah, which is 6th v 7th, is that correct?
Yeah, and they are both on 72 points, I think. Yeah, they're on equal points and Saxby are 3 ahead. So it's a very unlikely scenario that after the next round of fixtures, Saxby are 7th, but yeah.
We'll see.
You'd like to think they're in the box seat for that.
So I think they're the headlines. Rob, you were being intrepid and as diligent as ever. You were on the ground for a couple of these. So Biarritz first on Thursday night. Anything you want to call out from that?
No, literally nothing, because I can't really remember anything.
Very good.
It was, when we were summarising on Sunday, kind of ranking 1 to 4 the games, I think all 3 of us had Biarritz 4th just because it was actually probably the best, like most fun, but who knows what happens? Blackout. The danger of the 9 p.m. kickoff.
The 9 p.m.
kind of
kickoff.
had a couple of platters beforehand and couldn't see anywhere. Well, I'm going to pin the blame on the brother of a very good friend of ours, a very good friend of me and one of the other guys that I was on the trip with from school, who we randomly bumped into, who was touring with Old Mill Hillians Rugby Club. And bumping into him and chatting to the Old Mill Hillians guys meant that I couldn't then locate the duck heart baguette that was probably needed to fortify me against So the fact that we kind of didn't eat, apart from the old platter of cheese, which wasn't particularly big or filling, before the game in the craft beer bar by Les Halles in Biarritz, which was lovely. The fact that we probably didn't eat burger until 10 o'clock, no, 11 o'clock. Well after the game, probably did the damage. But great fun, Biarritz. Very, very different vibe to when we were there last time. Glorious weather, really rowdy. Felt very Brits abroad, if I'm honest, not just because of Old Mill Hillians, but there felt like just a lot of English accents. I mentioned that we bumped into the travelling reserve at Biarritz, the guys from that, and there was like school touring teams. I remember like when I was queuing up for my hot dog, an exceptional hot dog, I have to say. There was like a touring team of young Irish lads that were probably all like 15. I feel like I probably offered them, like, do you want me to buy you a beer? It's like, actually, no, you probably don't even like beer. So yeah, it felt very British. But Beziers just didn't really turn up. Beziers were poor, and there was only one team in it. In the Midi Olympique team of the week was a fullback who actually two of the best players we saw in those 2 games were both fullbacks, and I would have gone for Mont-de-Marsan. Kylian Jaminet was at fullback, who has an identical penalty spot to his brother Dylan, which is quite amusing. I just found that really.
Dylan or Melvin?
Melvin.
Where does Dylan play? Do we need to do a bit of sleuthing?
I think he's in Nevers, isn't he?
We got three identical lids.
I just found it quite, it's like instantly recognisable because of the same lid. Maybe when Melvin gets that money back from Toulouse or the kind of offshore trust fund, he can get Turkish operations for all 3 of his brothers. Well, all 3 of them.
Little family trip. As we say, Rob can dish it out because it would be unfair of me. But yeah, he's
as the resident
penalty taker.
Yeah, as the resident penalty spot / biscuit / receding hairline owner.
What was the Chez Tonton? Tiles off the roof or something, wasn't it? It's quite.
Oh yeah, tiles off the roof.
It's a man with a hole in the thatch. Excellent. Biarritz, well, dangerous place. That's good to know. Hilarious. Just your messages to what you were saying there. It did sound like every other British person who was watching rugby in France that weekend had ended up in Biarritz. I think it's quite a popular holiday destination regardless, right? So it's sort of on the map. Whereas
Biarritz is a town. I actually
it's not that big, right?
Supposedly in population wise, it's quite a bit smaller than Bayonne, but it feels way bigger.
Okay.
It feels like a proper. This is the first time last time I spent any time in Biarritz was on my under 13s rugby tour.
There you go.
So that's quite a long time ago. You've spent a few hours there on the beach trying to find a taxi.
Outside the casino trying to find a taxi, yeah.
But the first time either of us have seen anything of Biarritz in full functionality. The Friday, like obviously glorious sunshine, there's full market. It felt like a proper Mediterranean tourist town. Like it does feel like a Nice or somewhere in Spain almost, because it has that real like holiday tourist destination vibe. It's very polished, doesn't feel nearly as Basque and isn't nearly as pretty in terms of the building as Bayonne. But yes, as you say, it's very popular with tourists. There's the surfing. So one of the guys went surfing on Friday. So we didn't actually end up spending time in Mont-de-Marsan because we were just chilling in Biarritz and he wanted to go surfing, which fair play to him. He got up a good 2 hours before the others, while we just milled around Biarritz being hot. Sorry, yes, and the flights obviously go to Biarritz. The flights to Biarritz are generally relatively cheap. They're every Friday, which helps as well. And the Basque Country being a bit of a heartland helps with that. Nice. So like Old Mill Hillians played Anglet and they played someone else on the Saturday as well.
Was it?
Yeah.
So then talk me through Mont-de-Marsan. You said you didn't get to see too much of the town, but did the derby live up to the Lawn Derby live up to expectations in terms of vociferousness and aggro and all of those good things?
Well, you know how I say, I can't remember a time when, like every week. I can't remember, and obviously there's just a massive recency bias on that. I can't remember a game where I've seen so many scraps. The only one I can remember being close was actually Valence Romans versus Grenoble at Stade des Alpes. So another derby, but yeah, there was a period of about 10 minutes in the second half where every time the referee blew his whistle, there was some sort of scuffle, and there was the second row for Mont-de-Marsan he'd really give Thomas Sate and Will Skelton a run for their money. I'm gonna have to find his name because every stoppage in play, he not only did he get a yellow card, Nicolas Garot, not only did he get a yellow card, he then got a further warning later just for
amazing
being scrappy. Shout out to Jan Bretus, who I assume is retiring at the end of the season. He's got grey hair. He played. This is his last Lawn Derby, so there's and he's got one more home game to go. Well, yes, regardless of where they end up in the access match, one more home game to go. Playing his 340th game for Mont-de-Marsan.
Wow.
So there was, so like he was.
That's a lot of fights.
That's a lot of fights. He was being lifted on his shoulders, on people's shoulders. There was the big face masks. The big face mask seems to be a thing in French rugby because behind us, not just Jean-Noel Spitzer, behind us, the Dax fans had two people. One was Rafa Ibanez. I don't know who the other one was. Of just massive. Do I mean Rafa? Yeah, Rafael Ibanez. Yeah, not Rafa Benitez.
Yeah,
Rafa Benitez would have been really niche. Yeah, it was a weird old game because Dax's pack is absolutely enormous. Like there are some like you remember David Lollahea when we saw him at Saxby.
Yeah,
he's fucking enormous. Nefi Lertagunga, who Leicester fans will probably remember, is bloody enormous. The Genesis Lamalu, the number 8, is absolutely massive. And first carry of the game, like, flattens Luka Begic, the Portuguese prop, who was just out. Like, the game stopped for like 3-4 minutes within 30 seconds of starting because first carry of the game is just absolutely flattened him. We also had the loudest Dax fans possible. I think they were hammered, but they were two kind of girls in their like probably early 20s who were just shrieking all game à les Rouges. And there was one point where Genesis Lamalu, about 5 minutes after he KO'd Luka Begic, like ran at the Mont-de-Marsan defence, and Samuel Lagrange, the other hooker, ran like towards tackling him, and I'm pretty sure the girls shouted the other hooker as like get another one basically because he was gonna kill someone else.
That's excellent stuff. Genesis, who also would, either him or Hugo Bastard of Aurillac would be captain of the names 15, surely. You don't get many Genesis coming over. That's class.
Although best name in this game and best name in Pro D2, who also was very good and is also a massive ball carrying number 8, Ioana Yashagashvili, he's a good player. He's a really good player. I was really impressed with him. The player. So a lot of Pro D2, Tier 2 or whatever you want to call it these days, like Rugby Nations Championship players. Shimal Bento, the fullback for Mont-de-Marsan, who plays for Portugal, I think he had a better, well, bearing in mind I don't really remember that much of Kylian Jaminet's performance other than his lid. I thought he was brilliant. It's proper Niniashvili vibes. So like same lid, has a tash.
Socks down.
I think socks down and just goes for it. Like there was a few times, every time, as soon as I started trying to record him on the off chance he did something really, really loose, he then just kicked it. but which is disappointing. But there was one try that was unreal that he like dabbed through. There was another one that they nearly scored. They played some brilliant, like we've seen on the highlights, Mont-de-Marsan just flinging it around. Some of their stuff first half was electrifying, and Shimal Bento was at the heart of it. The other player that was brilliant was Semi Langivala, who actually went off quite early on in the second half, unfortunately, but he was brilliant both sides of the ball. Probably like Mangala style player, of like slightly wiry, but will like tackle everything, really, really bloody physical, really hard to like, gets in over the jackal really quickly in the same way that Mangala does in that kind of 7 style. Yeah, shame he went off injured, because he was the best player on the pitch, I thought, in the first half, and he went off pretty much straight away in the second half. Replaced by Wangaya, who is another really good Fijian, but slightly less lithe, slightly more towards the Kathangi end.
Yeah.
Gatien Mas as well, the 13, I thought was great. Not a player I could have told you anything about before. 13 for Mont-de-Marsan. They were just really impressive. They were by far the better team. Dax's line out was utterly dreadful. Like, they would complain, like there'd be a penalty. Mont-de-Marsan would complain about the penalty. They kicked and it was kind of like, I don't know why the fans are complaining, because they're going to get the ball back, because Dax's line out is just dreadful. And despite how big their pack is, they were bad. They didn't dominate at scrum time. We saw them at Saxe-V, like they just didn't get anywhere at maul time, and I attributed that to Saxe-V having good maul defence. But I think it might be their setup, because I don't know how you've got blokes that are like 23 stone that are going absolutely nowhere at maul time. Nefi Leotagunga talking about Colt props. We saw him doing a warm-up. The down-ups, he was basically, you know, like the warm-ups in the dead ball area, they do like some down-ups and they do a little bit of a shuttle. Players had basically completed their shuttle before he was back up on his feet again. I tried to get some footage.
Being lapped in.
He was getting lapped in down ups, and we were trying to get some footage of it. Like, there was some really perfect stuff. But when he came on, he just stands in the middle of the park and then obviously just does the business at scrum time. But yeah, massive blokes, very, very ineffectual. And Mont-de-Marsan were deserved winners. And I enjoyed Mont-de-Marsan. Stash Shot was disappointing. It was underwhelming. But
that for me is the one that I've assumed would be just an absolute winner, that Stash Shot. So yeah, I'm surprised by that.
I mean, it was there was some cool stuff. There was some fairly outrageous bucket hats. Obviously the Russell Westbrook shirt.
Was he there?
Yeah. There was a big it was actually in the Mont-de-Marsan end. There were big blow-up face masks of Russell Westbrook and Teo Atsogbe. But yeah, there wasn't a load of stuff that I wanted to buy. I don't know if that kind of wanted. I was really hoping for like a casual white T-shirt with just a simple logo, or a black jumper with a simple logo that would have been quite flair. Or like maybe like I think they've got quite a random kit manufacturer. I think it was Canada, local. It's like something really random, yeah. But you'll be glad to know that I did eventually get a duck heart baguette, and après match was really good fun.
A day late.
There were lads in the après who you could book a table, and they were having full steak, chips, bottle of red, and like an apple tart, full sit down meal just on a bench.
That's brilliant. Absolutely
and then
superb.
There was like a little club area where a lot of the players were, but we were, because we had to get back to Bayonne, we kind of probably didn't get quite stuck in as we did. But the bandas were great, played Don Les Udemily fantastically, but the club bit, you could see the players were all coming out, and the players were obviously getting on it because they've got a bit of a break, and it's not far for both sides to get home. So I think both teams were on it. Shimal Bento was getting kissed and like hugged by everyone.
Fan favourite. Sounds fabulous, and I don't know why it's always been on my list, Mont-de-Marsan. It sounds like maybe there's a bit more for you to see of it. So maybe we can.
I want to go back.
We can stick it on the list there, and Dax. Brilliant. I think that's Pro Day done for another week. Only 2 to go, and then we've got whatever it is, 5 weeks of finals, playoffs, barrage, all the fun stuff. Petit-Fours Digestifs coming up.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
Okay, just before we get into the Petit-Fours Digestifs, acutely aware that for the last few weeks, one of the big elephant is the room is we haven't covered any of the Women's Six Nations, which I think is largely through inability to find time to do it and do it justice. But there was a phenomenal result. Well, not result necessarily, but a game at the weekend. The Red Roses, who I saw their winning record over the last couple of years, it's freakish beyond that World Cup final defeat.
That's the only game they've lost in about 5 years.
I think it's like 56 out of 57.
Yeah.
But this was 43-42 to England, and by all accounts, a pretty serious performance from the French, which ahead of a World Cup, which is obviously being hosted over here, makes things incredibly exciting going forward. So I think we'll make sure we're a little bit more in tune with the Women's World Cup, certainly with France as a more than coming force, one of the teams that are gonna give England a run for their money. So fair play to them. It's a hell of an effort.
I was gonna say, do we need to? But we are claiming that we are all things French rugby. So yeah, we do need to cover a little bit the elite one. Not that we've seen the game, but
all on the list.
Yeah,
get it on the list for next time. But yeah, it looked like an amazing game, and of course a few Blognac players in there, which gives us great reason, if none other, to get involved. So look forward to getting stuck into the World Cup, which isn't that far away now. In a little bit of additional international news, so San Diego Legion got their first win in a little while at the weekend. So shout out Zach Ferrance and co.
Marnoni,
the Marnoni connection. And there was also a really interesting article, which is worth a read on Rugby Pass. A guy called Tom Pittman, who used to play for Jersey and Cornish Pirates, who's ended up at Chartres in the fifth tier. So what would that be? That would be like Nationale, like Fédéral, something like that.
Yeah.
Which I believe is in kind of one of the Paris suburbs, and is on the verge of a Eagles call up for the USA. Wow. So genuinely worth a read. So go and find that if you can. Anything on your Petit-Fours list this week?
So very aware that Easter feels like a long time ago for many people, but I wanted to shout out what I saw on Ilta Daffith's Blue Sky, and actually he caught it on Danny Priso's Instagram. Easter egg of the year goes Danny Priso and Boulangerie Cornu just outside Toulon, who have done that. They've made an Easter egg in the shape of a rugby ball with Toulon branding and the name Danny Priso on it, which is
quite a bit of engineering.
Yeah, that's quite impressive stuff. The other thing that I had in Petit-Fours, that was quite a while ago, I saw that Sia Khaleesi was at Anfield this weekend. I know this is a bit of hark back to last year, but Sia Khaleesi, when he was doing the rounds of every club in Europe, basically being a super fan, he was wearing a Gerrard shirt, and so maybe after all that, he is a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, I remember a photo of him and Jurgen Klopp a little while back. So
yeah, but he did also do ones with like Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger. And on just to finish up on my trip on Sunday, I was debating whether to try and go to a Fédéral barrage game. And my options were either kind of get half an hour, 40-minute taxi to Pays Harad, where a certain Teo Atasogbe started his career, and I also believe Christophe Lamaison, and I think his son might have been playing. Weirdly enough, he started his career at Pays Harad, but Christophe Lamaison finished his career at Saint Médard en Jalles, which is in the outskirts of, it's actually quite near the airport in Bordeaux. That was my other option. I didn't go to either of them, but it sounds like I missed a cracker at Saint Médard en Jalles. The game finished 35-34 against Union Beziers-Jonzac. There's a try in the first minute. The game finished with, if I find it, 69 minutes, red card for Jonzac, 70 minutes, yellow card for Jonzac, 72 minutes, yellow card for Jonzac, 80 minutes, try for Jonzac, 80 minutes, try for Jonzac, converted, 80 minutes, yellow card for Saint Médard en Jalles, 80 minutes, yellow card for Saint Médard en Jalles. So I've got no idea what happened at the end, but within the space of, there's a penalty try as well in the build-up to the red card. So within the space of supposedly 11 minutes of play, we've had 5 cards and 3 tries.
Fantastic.
But well done. Actually, no, I think they have a second leg on those. There's some good kits as well. But
very nice.
But one good where stuff. There isn't a second leg is Nationale Nibbles, and the teams going through were Rennes and Stade Niortais, who beat a bit of a local rival Orléans, so away from home, quite convincingly as well. So the final of Nationale 2, I believe, is Rennes Étudiants up in the northwest in Brittany versus Niort, who I assume is Charente region, because it's kind of between La Rochelle and Soyons and Angoulême and Cognac. So I assume it's in the Charente region. But yeah, both teams gone pretty well there.
Between
so maybe
La Rochelle
maybe Rennes will have to be our team now that our boys via Jacob Botica Orléans got knocked out.
It's quite nice, Niort. Wouldn't be the worst place to have
I think they've got a Portuguese or a Spanish international. I think they've got. I feel like when I was looking at the Rugby Europe Championship players, there was quite a few players that played at Niort, so maybe on the rise.
Keep an eye out. All right, I think we're pretty much there, aren't we? You can follow us as ever at Rosbiff Rugby. Drop us an email, rosbiffrugby@gmail.com. Enjoy 2 cracking matches, but in particular, enjoy Bordeaux v Toulouse at the Matmut on Sunday. It should be an absolute beaut. We will be back next week as ever. Rob,
got a little special one hopefully tomorrow next week as well.
Yes. Yeah. A few things in the pipeline. Rob, I hope the post-trip blues continue to subside, and we'll see you all next week. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.